Fair use disclaimer: this is a transformative, educational summary commentary of high-performance habits for learning and inspiration. All ideas are drawn directly from the original book. Let me take you right into this. I'm Brendan Burchard, and this book was born from a simple but haunting question I kept asking high achievers all over the world: why do so many capable, driven people work so hard yet still feel stuck, burned out, or unsure about their next level? I've coached CEOs in glass towers, Olympic athletes under stadium lights, and everyday parents trying to hold it all together. Different worlds. Same struggle. People hustle, they grind, they do all the right things, and still wonder, is this it? That's where high performance begins, not with more effort, but with better habits. High performers don't just succeed once. They succeed beyond the norm, consistently, over the long term, without destroying their health, relationships, or joy. That's the real game. Now, Chapter Seek Clarity from High Performance Habits changes everything. Because the very first thing high performers do better than anyone else is get clear. Not vague clarity. Not someday clarity. Precise clarity. They know who they want to be, how they want to show up, and what truly matters right now. Most people wake up reacting to life, emails, texts, expectations, noise. High performers wake up deciding. They ask, who do I need to be today? What does excellence look like here? What actually matters in this season of my life? That clarity becomes their compass. Without it, you drift. With it, decisions become simpler and confidence rises. I saw this again and again in the research. High performers seek clarity about their identity, their intentions, and their future. Identity is about standards, what you stand for and how you behave when it's hard. Intentions are about the present moment, how you show up in a meeting, a workout, or a conversation. And the future is about direction, not fantasy. Now, Chapter Generate Energy from High Performance Habits is where most people finally realize what's been holding them back. Because talent doesn't separate high performers from everyone else. Intelligence doesn't. Even discipline doesn't. Energy does. The research was crystal clear: high performers simply have more consistent physical, mental, and emotional energy than their peers. Not hype. Not caffeine-fueled chaos. Real, sustainable energy. And without it, clarity fades, productivity collapses, and confidence disappears no matter how smart or motivated you are. Here's the mistake most people make. They think energy is something you have or don't have. Genetics. Age. Luck. That's wrong. Energy is something you generate through deliberate choices. High performers treat their bodies and minds like power plants, not dumping grounds. They don't wait until they feel exhausted to care. They manage energy proactively, because they know their performance depends on it. You can have the best goals in the world, but if you're tired, distracted, and emotionally drained, you will not execute at a high level. High performers move their bodies. Period. Not because they're obsessed with fitness, but because movement creates mental clarity and emotional strength. The data shows they exercise more frequently than their peers, and it's not extreme. It's consistent. They understand that motion creates emotion. A walk, a workout, a stretch, these things reset your nervous system and sharpen focus. When your body feels strong, your mind believes you can handle more. Now, Chapter Raise Necessity from High Performance Habits is where things get real, because this is the habit that separates people who know what to do from people who actually do it consistently. You can have clarity. You can have energy. But without necessity, you will still procrastinate, hesitate, and hold yourself back. High performers don't wait to feel like it. They don't rely on mood. They raise the stakes of their own lives. Here's what the research revealed, and this surprised a lot of people. High performers are not more disciplined because they have stronger willpower. They're more disciplined because it feels necessary for them to show up at a high level. There's something on the line. Something meaningful. Something bigger than comfort. Most people only act when there's urgency imposed from the outside, a deadline, a boss, a crisis. High performers create urgency from the inside. Necessity is emotional leverage. It's when quitting feels unacceptable. When playing small feels painful. When mediocrity feels heavier than effort. High performers attach their actions to identity, service, and consequence. They don't just say, I should work harder. They say, people are counting on me. They don't say, I want to improve. They say, I must improve to serve at the level I'm called to. Think about it. You've probably noticed this in your own life. When something truly matters, when someone you love needs you, when your reputation is on the line, when your future self is staring back at you, you find another gear. That's necessity. And high performers learn how to turn that gear on intentionally, not accidentally. One of the biggest traps people fall into is comfort. Not failure, comfort. When life is fine, urgency disappears. You start delaying dreams. You lower standards. You negotiate with yourself. High performers don't let comfort numb their ambition. They regularly remind themselves why their work matters. They visualize the cost of not acting. They ask hard questions like, what happens if I don't step up? Who loses if I stay small? Raising necessity doesn't mean stress or fear. It means meaning. Purpose. Responsibility. High performers link their daily actions to a larger mission. That mission could be family, leadership, impact, growth, or contribution, but it's always personal and deeply felt. When the mission is clear, excuses lose power. Another critical insight from the research is this: high performers expect more from themselves than the world does. They don't wait for accountability, they become accountable. They set standards before anyone else does. They don't ask, what's required to get by? They ask, what's required to be excellent here? And here's the beautiful part. When necessity is high, confidence rises. Because every time you show up despite resistance, you prove something to yourself. You build self-trust. Momentum grows. Identity strengthens. You stop needing motivation because commitment has taken over. Now, chapter Increase Productivity from High Performance Habits is where high performers stop being busy and start being dangerously effective. Because productivity at the highest level is not about doing more things, it's about doing the right things with excellence, again and again. Most people are exhausted not because they're lazy, but because they're misdirected. They're working hard on tasks that don't truly matter. High performers figured this out early, and it changed how they approach every day. Here's the big distinction. Average performers focus on activity. High performers focus on meaningful output. They ask a question most people avoid: what would actually move the needle here? They know that being responsive feels productive, but being strategic creates results. So instead of reacting all day, they design their days around what truly counts in their primary field of contribution. The research showed 3 core practices behind this habit. First, high performers identify the few critical outputs that matter most. Not endless to-do lists. Not clutter. Just the small set of actions that create real value. They're ruthless about this. If something doesn't support their main mission, it gets delayed, delegated, or deleted. This is why they seem calm while others are overwhelmed. They've already decided what deserves their attention. Second, they block time and protect focus. High performers don't wait to see if they find time. They claim it. They schedule deep work. They minimize distractions. They understand that attention is their most valuable asset, and they guard it fiercely. Multitasking is not a badge of honor, it's a performance killer. Focused effort beats scattered hustle every single time. Third, high performers obsess over quality. They don't just want output, they want excellent output. They ask, how can I do this better? How can this serve more? How can this stand out? That mindset alone separates leaders from contributors. They're not rushing just to check boxes. They're crafting work they're proud of. But here's something people often misunderstand. High performers are not machines. They don't grind non-stop. They understand rhythms. Work. Recover. Repeat. They build in breaks. They recharge intentionally. Because sustained productivity requires sustained energy. Burnout doesn't create legacy, it ends it. Another powerful insight from the research is that high performers finish things. Sounds simple, but it's rare. They value completion. They hate dragging projects forward endlessly. They close loops. They deliver. That ability to finish builds confidence, credibility, and momentum. It also frees mental space for the next level of thinking. And let me say this clearly. Productivity is not about perfection. It's about progress on what matters most. High performers don't wait until conditions are ideal. They move forward, refine, and improve along the way. Motion creates clarity. Execution creates confidence. So if you've ever felt busy but unfulfilled, productive but not progressing, this habit is your wake-up call. Stop asking, what do I need to do today? And start asking, what would make today matter? When you focus on meaningful output, everything changes. Increase productivity, and suddenly your time works for you instead of against you. And once that happens, you don't just perform better, you lead better, live better, and grow faster. Now, chapter Develop Influence from High Performance Habits is where high performance stops being just about you and starts being about the impact you have on everyone around you. This is one of the most misunderstood habits, because people think influence means charisma, dominance, or being the loudest voice in the room. The research proves otherwise. High performers aren't influential because they push harder. They're influential because they lift others up. Here's the truth. No one reaches sustained success alone. At some point, your growth depends on your ability to work with people, lead people, inspire people, and earn trust. High performers understand this deeply. They don't see influence as manipulation. They see it as responsibility. They ask, how can I add value here? How can I help others win? How can I raise the standard of this room? One of the strongest findings from the research is that high performers are consistently more respected and admired than their peers, even though they outperform them. That's rare. And it happens because high performers practice intentional influence. They care how others experience them. They're thoughtful about their words, their tone, their energy, and their presence. They don't just show up to perform, they show up to connect. High performers ask questions. They listen. Really listen. Not just waiting to talk, but seeking to understand. They validate others' perspectives, even when they disagree. That creates psychological safety. And when people feel safe, they contribute more. Ideas get better. Teams get stronger. Results improve. Teams get stronger. Results improve. Another key part of influence is encouragement. High performers catch people doing things right. They give sincere recognition. Not flattery, acknowledgement. They know encouragement fuels motivation far more effectively than criticism ever could. When people feel seen and appreciated, they rise. But don't confuse kindness with weakness. High performers are also clear and direct. They give feedback. They have hard conversations. They hold standards. The difference is how they do it. With respect. With clarity. With the intention to help, not to dominate. That's why people listen to them. That's why people follow them. Influence also means modeling the behavior you expect. High performers don't demand excellence, they demonstrate it. They show up prepared. They keep commitments. They stay calm under pressure. That consistency builds trust faster than words ever could. People don't follow titles. They follow credibility. And here's something powerful. High performers think beyond their own success. They actively try to develop others. They mentor. They share knowledge. They open doors. They understand that leadership is multiplication, not accumulation. When you help others grow, your impact expands naturally. So if you want to increase your influence, stop asking, how can I get people to do what I want? And start asking, how can I serve people at a higher level? Influence grows when people feel respected, supported, and inspired in your presence. Develop this habit, and you don't just perform better, you elevate everyone around you. And that's when success becomes sustainable, meaningful, and deeply fulfilling. Now, chapter Demonstrate Courage from High Performance Habits is the habit that most people admire in others but hesitate to practice themselves. Because courage isn't loud. It isn't reckless. And it isn't fearlessness. Courage is the willingness to act despite fear, discomfort, or uncertainty, and high performers practice this habit daily. Here's what the research made undeniable. High performers feel fear just like everyone else. They doubt themselves. They worry about judgment. They hesitate before big moves. The difference is not that fear disappears, it's that fear doesn't get the final vote. High performers have learned that growth always demands courage, and stagnation always rewards comfort. They choose growth. Courage shows up in small moments long before it shows up in big ones. It's speaking up in a meeting when it would be easier to stay quiet. It's sharing an idea before it feels perfect. It's setting boundaries when people expect unlimited access to you. It's saying no to good opportunities so you can say yes to the right ones. High performers don't wait for confidence to act. They act, and confidence follows. One of the most powerful insights from the research is that high performers are more willing to be misunderstood. They don't need universal approval. They don't shape their lives around avoiding criticism. They understand that if you're trying to matter, someone will disagree. Someone will judge. Someone will doubt you. Courage is accepting that cost and moving forward anyway. High performers also demonstrate courage emotionally. They are honest about their struggles. They ask for help. They admit when they don't know something. That vulnerability builds trust, not weakness. It allows real connection. It allows learning. It allows progress. Pretending you have it all together might protect your ego, but it limits your growth. Another place courage shows up is in standards. High performers are willing to disappoint people in the short term to honor their values in the long term. They hold the line. They don't lower expectations just to keep the peace. They don't abandon their principles when pressure rises. That kind of courage builds integrity, and integrity builds lasting success. And here's something important. Courage compounds. Every time you do the hard thing, you prove to yourself that you can handle discomfort. That builds self-trust. That self-trust becomes resilience. Over time, what once felt terrifying becomes familiar. Not easy, but manageable. That's how high performers keep leveling up while others stall. Let me say this clearly. If you're waiting for fear to disappear before you act, you'll wait forever. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's forward motion in its presence. High performers understand that the life they want exists just beyond the decisions they've been avoiding. So ask yourself this: where am I playing it safe when I know I'm meant to step up? Answer that honestly, and you'll find your next breakthrough. Demonstrate courage, and suddenly clarity sharpens, influence deepens, and growth accelerates. This habit doesn't just move you forward, it frees you. Now, conclusion part 1 from high performance habits is where everything starts to click, because when you step back and look at the first 3 habits together, you realize they form the internal foundation of a high performer's life. This is the inside game. This is how extraordinary people think, feel, and decide before the world ever sees their results. Let's bring it home. Seek clarity is about direction. It's about deciding who you are, how you want to show up, and what truly matters in this season of your life. Without clarity, effort gets scattered. With clarity, effort becomes powerful. High performers don't drift into success. They define it. Every day, they ask better questions about identity, intention, and vision, and those questions shape their choices. Clarity turns chaos into focus and pressure into purpose. Generate energy is about capacity. Once you know where you're going, you need the fuel to get there. High performers don't rely on motivation spikes or adrenaline. They build sustainable physical, mental, and emotional energy. They move their bodies. They manage their emotions. They protect their focus. Energy is what allows clarity to stay sharp under stress. It's what lets you show up strong, present, and engaged when others fade. Raise necessity is about commitment. This is where clarity and energy turn into consistent action. High performers attach meaning to their efforts. They raise the stakes internally. They don't wait for deadlines, bosses, or crises to force them into motion. They decide that showing up fully is required. They link their work to service, responsibility, and impact. When necessity is high, excuses lose power and follow-through becomes natural. Necessity is high, excuses lose power and follow-through becomes natural. Here's the bigger picture. Clarity gives you direction. Energy gives you strength. Necessity gives you drive. Together, these 3 habits eliminate the most common problems people face: confusion, burnout, and procrastination. This is why high performers can handle more without breaking. They're not superhuman. They're aligned. And here's what I want you to hear clearly. You don't need to fix your entire life overnight. You need to practice these habits deliberately, day by day. Decide who you are. Take care of your energy. Remind yourself why it matters. Do that consistently, and you build an inner operating system that supports growth instead of sabotaging it. This is the personal foundation of high performance. And once this foundation is solid, everything else, productivity, influence, courage, has something strong to stand on. Now, conclusion part 2 from high performance habits is where we zoom out and look at how the last 3 habits work together to shape your external impact, your work, your leadership, your contribution to the world. If the first 3 habits build the inner engine, these next 3 determine how powerfully that engine moves things forward. Increased productivity is not about doing more, it's about mattering more. High performers understand something most people never slow down enough to realize: time is not the problem, focus is. They don't try to win the day by cramming it with tasks. They win the day by identifying the few outputs that truly move the needle in their primary field. They design their days around intention, not interruption. Productivity, at this level, becomes an act of respect for their mission, their team, and their future self. They protect focus because they know attention is the gateway to excellence. And they recover intentionally, because they're playing a long game, not a short sprint. Develop influence is where high performance stops being selfish and starts becoming significant. The research was clear: high performers are admired not because they dominate, but because they elevate. They care deeply about how others experience them. They listen. They encourage. They model high standards instead of preaching them. Influence is built through trust, consistency, and service. High performers understand that leadership is not control, it's contribution. They ask how they can help others succeed, grow, and feel valued. And because of that, people want to follow them. Not out of obligation, but out of respect. Demonstrate courage is the thread that ties productivity and influence together under pressure. Courage is what allows high performers to stay true to their standards when it would be easier to retreat. It's what allows them to speak up, set boundaries, make hard decisions, and step into uncertainty with integrity. High performers accept that fear is part of growth. They don't wait to feel ready. They move forward with intention anyway. Over time, that repeated willingness to act builds self-trust, and self-trust becomes resilience. This is why high performers keep rising while others stall. They are willing to be uncomfortable in service of something meaningful. When you see these three habits together, a powerful pattern emerges. Productivity gives you leverage. Influence gives you reach. Courage gives you momentum. Without productivity, effort gets wasted. Without influence, success becomes lonely and limited. Without courage, growth eventually stops. High performers integrate all three deliberately, again and again, across projects, teams, and seasons of life. And here's the deeper truth the book points to. These habits aren't just about success, they're about alignment. They ensure that as you achieve more, you don't lose yourself. You stay effective without becoming exhausted. You lead without becoming disconnected. You grow without compromising who you are. This is what sustained high performance really looks like. Not constant pressure. Not non-stop hustle. But intentional habits that allow you to contribute at a high level while still experiencing confidence, connection, and fulfillment. Now, final close from high performance habits is where everything comes together, not as theory, not as motivation for a single day, but as a way of living. This book was never meant to inspire you for a moment. It was meant to equip you for a lifetime of meaningful, sustained success. High performance is not about intensity once in a while. It's about consistency over time. It's about who you become through your habits. When you look at all 6 habits together, you start to see the full picture. Seek clarity gives you direction so you're not wandering through your days. Generate energy gives you the strength to show up fully without burning out. Raise necessity gives you the internal drive to act even when it's uncomfortable. Increase productivity ensures your effort actually matters. Develop influence allows your success to multiply through others. And demonstrate courage keeps you moving forward when fear, doubt, or resistance appear. These habits don't compete with each other, they compound. Here's what I want you to remember most. High performers are not extraordinary because of their circumstances. They are extraordinary because of their choices. They choose clarity over confusion. Energy over exhaustion. Commitment over comfort. Focus over frenzy. Service over ego. Courage over fear. And those choices, practiced daily, shape a life that stands out. This is why high performance feels different than hustle culture. It's not about grinding yourself into the ground. It's about alignment. When your habits align with who you want to be and how you want to serve, effort feels purposeful. Pressure becomes manageable. Confidence grows naturally. You stop chasing success and start embodying it. So here's your call to action, not someday, not next year, but now. Choose one habit to practice more intentionally this week. Just one. Ask clearer questions. Move your body with purpose. Raise the stakes on something that matters. Focus deeply on meaningful work. Encourage someone around you. Do the hard thing you've been avoiding. Small actions, done consistently, change everything. And let me leave you with this truth that guided the entire research. High performance is not about being better than other people. It's about being better than your former self while lifting others along the way. That's how success becomes fulfilling instead of empty. That's how achievement turns into contribution. If this message challenged you, inspired you, or gave you language for what you've been feeling, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Pass it on. And if you want more ideas like this, more tools, more conversations about how to live, lead, and perform at your best. Stay connected. Because the world doesn't need more busy people. It needs more clear, energized, courageous leaders who know what matters and show up for it every day. And that kind of high performance is a choice, one you can make starting now. Now, here's where our journey together comes to a close. You and I have walked through what it truly means to live and perform at a higher level, not just chasing success, but building the habits that sustain it. This isn't the end of your growth. It's the beginning of how you show up differently tomorrow. With more clarity, more energy, more intention, more courage, and a deeper commitment to becoming the person your future demands. If this message resonated with you, if something clicked, if a line made you pause, if you felt that quiet inner nudge that says, "This matters," don't let it fade. Take action. Share this with someone who needs it. Someone who's capable of more but maybe hasn't seen the path clearly yet. And if you want to keep learning how to live, lead, and perform at your best, make sure you subscribe and stay connected. These conversations are about growth that lasts, success that feels meaningful, and habits that carry you forward for years, not just weeks. Remember this above all else. High performance is not a personality trait. It's a practice. And every day, you get to choose how you show up. Choose clarity. Choose energy. Choose courage. And choose to live a life that truly reflects your potential. I'm proud of you for being here. Keep going.